What up, y'all? It's Try. Welcome to Try's World. The sad news today, Lou Holtz has passed. I guess he's been sick for a little bit now, and ever since really the national championship game last year, he seemed to be losing some of his liveliness. I guess that's the best way to say it. So I have here a helmet that he signed after I went to the national championship game. He was at that game too, and I just loved how he talked smack on Ohio State, even though Marcus Freeman is an Ohio State alum, and he just kept talking down on Ohio State and how much better Notre Dame was. And he had full confidence that Notre Dame would win, and Ryan Day was pissed off. I mean, I just remember him being so angry with some of Lou Holtz's comments, and as sick as he was, as frail as he was, he dragged himself to the game that I was at with my nephew. So it was obviously an honor to be there with him, to witness that game, even though we lost. And it's a bummer because I feel like Notre Dame would have won this year had they got the chance to get into the playoffs, which they should have. I haven't even spoke at length about this because I've been so unhappy with the college football committee that basically let Miami in over Notre Dame and Alabama, a 3-loss Alabama team. So we can keep replaying it, but my whole thing was Notre Dame lost to Miami early in the season when CJ Carr, who's arguably gonna be a Heisman candidate next year, he's that good. His first game of the season, they lost against Carson Beck, who's like a 5th-year senior, not even taking classes anymore. He should be in the NFL, but took another year to go to Miami and lost by a very small margin. I think 3 points or something like that. And Miami's losses were against really bad teams. They won against good teams, but lost against bad teams. So you got this like team that's up and down, and they got in anyway. You can argue all you want, be politically correct all you want. I thought Notre Dame definitely should have gotten over Miami, but at the very least, both of them should have gotten in and played each other once again in the playoffs. And all these people who are like, they should have played. They already played, and head-to-head matters, and Miami already beat them. Yes, back in the day, head-to-head mattered a lot. It matters less now, especially with the playoff format, with the 12-team format as it is now. So it matters a lot less because you're supposed to let the 12 best teams in and let them play each other, just like every other sport. And a win in the regular season is not the same as a win in the postseason. In every sport. Just this new playoff 12-team format is new to college football. And so college football fans are arguing stuff that is really outdated. You know, the head-to-head matters, so you eliminate each other once. It's not a single elimination game in the regular season. You're supposed to, and so the problem is you have human beings who's in this college football committee, which half of them had Ohio connections, by the way. Either alum or served on Ohio State somewhere, or went to Ohio State, or lived in Ohio and did work in Ohio, something like that. Half the committee had Ohio connections. Check out their profiles, by the way. I don't even know how that happened. Of course they let Ohio State in, but they lost right? They ended up losing against Miami, and I thought, for the same reasons, really, that they almost lost or the game got close last year against Notre Dame in the title game. If you were actually watching the title game, what Coach Ryan Day did was he began to make really conservative plays at the wrong time. Risky plays at the wrong time, conservative plays at the wrong time. He started making really conservative plays towards the end, so Notre Dame started catching up. And that's just a common psychological error that a lot of people make in investing and just human nature in general. And that also dovetails into investing about human nature and psychology again. But that's a very common mistake that people find it difficult to correct. And so he did the same thing against a good Indiana team. And then he lost again against Miami, not for the same reason, but that's why he lost against Indiana. And who beat the brakes off Indiana last year? Notre Dame. Even though it's the same Curt Cignetti who was pugnacious, just as pugnacious as last year. They have a new quarterback, but I mean, they really got smoked. I mean, it's the same really, really good coach in Curt Cignetti, and everybody's hailing Curt Cignetti as this like the best coach in whatever, forgetting that Marcus Freeman beat the brakes off of him. They should have at least played each other, and they didn't get a chance, and it's just full circle. It's funny, I watched this, if you have a chance, in honor of Lou Holtz or whatever. I didn't know Lou Holtz was a Trump supporter, by the way. He is. I remember him doing that, but I kind of forgot about it once the college football playoff hit, and we hit the title game and he was talking all that smack to Ryan Day. Ultimately, I knew him more as a football coach and not just any football coach, but a Notre Dame football coach. So he really invested in his players on and off the field. And he continued to be involved in the Notre Dame community even after football. So I do admire him for that. But obviously I'm not a big fan of his political views necessarily. And he wasn't as outspoken, to be quite honest, this time around. Maybe he was weaker, but he was outspoken in regards to Notre Dame. And how much better than how good he thought they were. And so I was a big fan of that and just loved how vocal he was and how supportive he was. And if you watch, there's two Netflix. Well, one is Peacock, and it's called, I forgot what it is. It's literally a reality TV show thing on Notre Dame season, and it shows how much Lou Holtz is still involved with Marcus Freeman and how helpful Lou Holtz was to Marcus Freeman and how welcoming he was and stuff like that. And I think it's called Here Come the Irish. That's that one on Peacock. If you get a chance on Netflix, there is a series called Catholics versus Convicts. And it comes full circle because that was the year that we won the national title game. But everybody knew we had to get through Miami. So when we played Miami at Notre Dame, Lou Holtz was a coach. He literally loved Notre Dame so much. He had a clause, I guess it's called the Notre Dame clause, something like that, where if he got in a bowl game at his current school and he got recruited by Notre Dame, he could leave that contract and go to Notre Dame. I think, but he loved Notre Dame that much and he wanted to coach that program that much. And he turned that program around, won a national title, our last national title in 1988. Which after I got home from the beating, or not the beating, the beating we took was against Alabama and the two other title games we were at. I thought we were closer in the last title game than we ever were before. And with a lot of injuries to some key players. Riley Mills, who made a sack in the Super Bowl, by the way, for the Seattle Seahawks. He would have been huge for us. I do think we should have went downfield faster. I mean, with Riley Leonard, he's shown that he can throw downfield, and I think we should have had a little bit more confidence in him. I think the same mistake was made with CJ Carr. We didn't let him go downfield till it was too late. He literally in his pregame presser, Coach Freeman was like, we're going to keep him short field, short passing, and work him into the whatever role. And I get it, but they were playing such a good Miami team. But again, Miami would have kept Notre Dame out of the title game had they lost that game against Miami. That was when it head-to-head really mattered because you didn't get many chances. You didn't have a 12-team format. It was just basically a championship bowl game that was held off campus. But the on-campus against Miami, I think both teams were in contention for that title game, and they called it and everybody knew it. Obviously this last year was a surprise, but I knew the whole history behind it. So that's why you see on my threads, I really attacked Miami before the decision came out to let Miami in, because I know how formidable Miami as a team is and continue to be. In full circle, they became a scourge again and got their revenge and got in the game, but they didn't win the title. No surprise. I mean, the more consistent team, consistently winning team won. And so Notre Dame, after that loss against basically a title game contender in Miami, and basically a Texas A&M team that lost against the title contender in the playoffs, Notre Dame barely lost to Texas A&M in Texas A&M. So at the very least, I believe Notre Dame should have got another chance to play in the playoffs. At the very least. And I think most people, even Nick Saban, who was a jerk before the College Football Playoff Committee made their decision, he was such a jerk. He was on TV saying, Miami and Notre Dame played and they played in the trenches and I saw it. And he was basically, I felt like lobbying for Alabama as well as Miami, because both those, Miami has a coach that played for Saban, or coached with Saban, under Saban, and learned from Saban. And then obviously Alabama, Saban coached at Alabama. So totally biased. And then after you gotta love these people, man. Like after the decision came out, he's like, oh, so terrible. Notre Dame should have gotten in. And what he was talking about was like JMU and Tulane. He felt like, I think he was talking about that, which is not even a conversation, because in contract they would have, they're supposed to let these minor league teams in anyway. Basically, he called them minor league teams, AAA teams in baseball, essentially, is what he equated them to. And we ended up letting them in anyway, and I think that's going to change. basically what he's foreshadowing, basically saying, yeah, I lobbied for my 2 teams to get in, and my bad, but next year you'll be in. But this would have been a year that Notre Dame could have won. And how great would it have been to get a win for Lou Holtz? What if it was Notre Dame Miami again in the title game? They probably would have had to play before the title game. But the point is, what if it was that again? And instead, he didn't get a chance to. We got cheated. And I find it extra sad that he didn't get to witness Notre Dame win another championship in his lifetime. But I obviously am sad for his family. He was 89. Sad for really the community. I mean, he was still strong within the Notre Dame community, especially when we started winning again. He was very vocal. I saw him on the Jumbotron and like on TV on the replays. So I don't know. I guess he almost seemed to reinvent himself. I almost forgot about his support for Donald and everything that happened before that. But I didn't remember him being as vocal. But his full focus at that point was Notre Dame football and Notre Dame. And I just saw how much he was still doing for the program, even though he didn't have to. I saw from the Catholics versus Convicts how committed he was to developing the full player. And it wasn't just about football. He was a true Notre Dame coach. He wanted to develop the whole person and not just talk about that. And Marcus Freeman understands that. He wears so many hats. It's insane how he has to do all these speaking tours in front of alumni, and just, it's not just a football coach. It's literally you are the face many times of Notre Dame and then the large alumni network that Notre Dame has. And so, and then when it comes to corporate relationships, corporate sponsorships, and what better to have than to have Coach Freeman. And I imagine Lou Holtz had the same responsibilities back in the day. Probably not as intense, but you get pulled in so many different directions. And he was about that. He loved Notre Dame that much. And so, as an alumni of Notre Dame myself, how can I not be a fan of Lou Holtz? I mean, we have a statue of him standing outside our stadium. He won 1 championship, stayed number 1 for a really long time. I think set the record for how long Notre Dame stayed number 1 with him as the coach. So I have here a helmet signed by him. I didn't know. So I became a huge fan of his after that title game, and seeing him just trade barbs, just not caring, just really trading barbs with Ryan Day and getting him pissed off, getting in his head. And it almost worked, and not giving an F that Marcus Freeman was an Ohio State alum himself, which in many ways shouldn't matter anyway. But yeah, I mean, if you take a look here, you're going to see my little... It is signed by Lou Holtz, 1988. I guess there's an inscription. I don't even know how to do this. 1988 National Championships, Lou Holtz. And obviously, he looked frail. I didn't think that anything was going to happen to him this soon. But after the title game, and he was just so active at that point, and it just seemed to revitalize him and his energy level. So I thought, hey, what a treat. I didn't know if this was like a rare edition or whatever. I just was like, not easy to get to title games and win a title. I mean, I've seen Notre Dame get into 3 title games now and not win them. So 2 of them they got really beat, and this last one the closest they've ever got. And I think they're on that doorstep. But to see how much pride Ohio State had when they won, and their fans. I mean, some of the fans were such jerks. One guy put a cigar in his mouth in the airport and put his feet up right next to me. Oh my goodness. But a lot of them I talked to, a lot of them I was cool with, but some of them were so obnoxious and they were so loud and they did not fit that Midwestern personality at all. And they actually made, my time in the Midwest made me realize like how different California is and how special California is and how California is the best state in the country by far. The conservatives in California don't realize how different conservatives are in red states or in the Midwest or in the South, which I've lived both. Not in the deep South, but I lived in North Carolina, which South Carolina is right there, Charleston, South Carolina. I lived in rural Pennsylvania. So I know not Scranton, where Biden was from, but I lived in Allentown, which you could literally see defunct steel mills in Allentown. I remember going there in Allentown and seeing this big old like steel factory, and it looked like a Final Fantasy 7. I used to be a gamer. And you look at these big dilapidated buildings, and the whole thing is just run down, and there's plants growing on it. And I just could not believe the state of that building and how it's just sitting there. Like, you'd think a shutdown factory like that would like get dismantled, you'd reuse the steel. No, it just sit there. It's just sitting there. And it just shows how much manufacturing, I guess, has gone overseas and been replaced by other jobs. And I applaud the effort of getting some of that back, and I'm not just some globalist. MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I'm going to go political because Try's World includes that. So I know I have a separate podcast, but it's like I might as well combine them all. She posted about it is about Americans and America first, and I do agree with her. Not in the same way though. I don't think she understands like how important it is to have trading with global partners is a means to peace because you have mutual interests. Okay, so we getting in this time where we're like deglobalizing everything, but when you think about it, we're really close allies with Japan, for example. You see these 7-Elevens, that's Japanese owned. It's a little different out here, but that's Japanese owned. So if we have mutual interests, we're less likely to attack one another. Just think about it. If you have an area where you have a bunch of stuff built out and you have a bunch of, you're less likely to say, hey, let's go and bomb that. Globalization has always, it's a really beat up word now, and it's turned into this whole like they're taking jobs and this whole protectionist thing. And I agree, some of it has gone too far. I don't think people realize, but I found myself a little bit out of place on college campuses, to be quite honest, especially with my major. So I did run across a lot of activist professors, not a lot, but there were some that didn't let you talk, that expect you to like memorize their books and things like that. And I'm just not a big memorizer, and I don't like rote memorization. And there was this one professor who had a class called Race, Class, and Gender Ideology. And I did terrible in that class. The worst grade I've ever gotten was in that class. And part of it was because the professor expected you to basically memorize everything, her book, which is a pretty radical book at the time. And it, in many ways, still is. And repeat and agree with everything that she wrote. You couldn't say I disagree. The first things first is you have to know what she's even talking about and then just repeat it like the Holy Bible or something, right? So I didn't get along with that professor, for example. And that class, it did open my eyes to some of the complaints that we're getting now from the right. Okay, so about liberal campuses and things like that, and the intolerance of some of that. And I mean, Charlie Kirk made a career off of it. So I don't agree with anything he says, by the way, but he literally was making it like he was going into the flames of hell. These college campuses, these liberal hell college campuses, protecting conservative America. And that's why he's hailed a hero on the right. And so, although I kind of appreciate some of that, I think pumping yourself up and saying, hey, I'm going to go to every college campus, because not every college campus is the same. And protect Republican views, basically, is, I think, an exaggeration. I mean, there were people who, and it depended on your major, things like that, but I think in general, college campuses and college towns are pretty liberal. And the liberalism you see is not what you think. Like, I saw many liberal people who were intolerant of other races. So I'm not saying it's all like that, but there were some that pretended to speak on behalf of minorities and things like that. And I really saw how they acted more than, and then these people who espouse liberal views. I'm not talking about a book. I'm talking about how the people in person, how they acted, treated me, who I'm a minority. I guess you can call me an overrepresented minority. I don't even know what that means. It's just, there's a big backlash against Asians and even white Americans and Jewish people because they're overrepresented in colleges. And so affirmative action can hurt qualified Asian Americans and whites. But there was a point where I think Jewish people were not, there was a certain hush-hush movement in college campuses that limited the amount of people of Jewish descent that they wanted in their colleges. And I think I was involved in Asian leadership networks and things like that in a lot of the organizations I was in. One of them, I read high school essays, and a lot of them showed a lot of angst about how they were going to be treated and things like that, and if they were going to have a fair shot at colleges, even though they'd done everything they can and were qualified and things like that. Article I just read on Costco's stance on diversity. You look at every single Costco, they adapt their Costco to that particular community. So I saw this like meme, like there's this like, which one's the most Asian Costco? How do you know it's the most Asian, depending on what? And it was funny to me because I do notice some Costco's have more of a focus on certain, maybe ethnicities, I don't know, than others, right? So I did notice that, and I think it's important because even with banks or anything like that, there's some banks that I know had a Chinatown bank, and they all spoke, for example, Chinese, or a lot of them did, or were bilingual. So you want to have the population fit that locality, and I don't think that's a bad thing. So you need a diverse workforce for that reason. We have a diverse population. I don't see what's bad with that. And so I still see the benefits of having a diverse workforce. I don't know why that's gotten such bad press, and they lump it into this DEI thing, and I don't even get it, really. It's just and I get it to a certain extent, because as an Asian male, I'm overrepresented in a lot of companies and a lot of universities, even though I may have certain qualifications or great qualifications. It's about merit. That's what the right is arguing. So I get all that. Do I want to feel like I don't have access to certain opportunities just because I'm an Asian male? No. I do want it to be based on merit, obviously. But it is a balance, because I'm talking about, from a realistic standpoint, I'm talking about in a community and doing business, let's just say. Typically, you want your employees in, like I said, that the Chinatown one is a great example. The Chinatown bank location is a great example. A lot of Chinese speakers. If there's a bank located in a large Spanish-speaking population, you're going to want Spanish speakers in there, let's just say. That's good business. It's good business sense. I think it's a balance. I really do think it's a balance. And the one thing I would like to see more, though, and MTG kind of spoke about this, there are a lot of people who are struggling right here in America that we still need to take care of. There's homelessness, there's hunger, there's all the things that we find in really poor countries across the globe as well. And so I do understand the argument from philanthropists, like Bill Gates, and who believe every life is equal. And so you know, if you can solve easily curable diseases, you can save a life, and that life counts just as much. I see that. But I think even with philanthropy, I find it hard to believe that he can't, and these philanthropists can't, find a lot of those same problems and try to solve a lot of those same problems here in America. I'm not talking about like easily curable diseases. Those I think is noble. Like for me, if you've struggled in America, if I've struggled in America, like you've grown up and experienced the other side. I mean, we didn't grow up wealthy, so you know what it is to struggle. I'm of the philosophy, once you take care of yourself, so I get this too, you're more able to help out other people. And so I do get the America first in that sense. And so have we gone too far with this globalist mentality of helping like overseas people, starting wars overseas, things like that? And there's a pushback against it now. If you see some Hitler-like person overseas, that's something to fight against and start wars over and fight for. I've just found a lot of these wars that America typically wins, and we haven't lost many, but the ones that we typically win, there's just everybody, there's a lot of buy-in. People really believe in the cause. It's not just a Vietnam situation where it's so far away and you don't know who you're helping sometimes. You don't know why you're there. The morale is low, versus with the world wars that Americans fought in and won. I mean, I think there was different reasoning. So the bombing of Iran, a lot of people are arguing that didn't need to happen. So you're getting sort of Marjorie Taylor Greene saying it's about Americans and America first, and she didn't believe the bombing of Iran fit that. I tend to withhold judgment until I get a little bit more information, and right now it's, from what I see, for example, Senator Elizabeth Warren was in a classified meeting, and she firmly believes there's no strategy. There were other avenues that this administration could have taken besides bombing Iran. And I'm not sure that's just politics. So when I hear stuff like that, I get a little worried. So here's someone who was in a classified meeting and is more informed than most all of us. And she's tough too. She's tough on banks and things like that. And so when she's basically enraged, it worries me. It worries me. It makes me wonder, when the facts are out there, did we get ourselves involved in a drawn out conflict again? I hope not. So today wasn't about investing. Today wasn't about business. Today was a little bit about just current events. Like I said, I do appreciate folks showing love. I do make shorts out of this, and as in short video forms out of this little longer podcast. I'm getting subscribers on YouTube, things like that. So if you like what you see, subscribe, like, comment, follow, do all that. So when people show me love, I do it more. That's why I keep doing this. And as far as markets went up today. That's what markets do. I mean, I talked about a little bit about Mr. Market. I got a nice clip off of that, so that people seem to like, depending on the platform. TikTok is like super young people. They like the little dances, which I've only ever known how to break dance or breaking or what I don't really know how to real dance, unless you call this at raves dancing. But I know 8 steps. I used to do 8 steps and stuff like that at our rally, so I'm sure I can make up some corny dance still. They're not difficult dances, but I noticed really young on TikTok, and then my YouTube skews a little young as well. Then my Facebook has everybody, but a lot of apparently older demographic as well. I don't really cater to anybody in particular. I just sort of make it as I see it and what I like and things like that. And hopefully y'all like it too. It's Try's world after all. But rest in peace, Lou Holtz. If you have a chance, watch Catholics vs. Convicts on Netflix. You'll see, I mean, the whole thing is like the Lou Holtz era. And that's why I began to get, after I watched that, I became a Lou Holtz fan. Shame on me, forgot about all his support. But like I said, he hasn't talked about it recently. At least I haven't heard any headlines recently of him talking about it and getting all political. Actually, no, I think Notre Dame sort of issued a statement against Lou Holtz, saying he doesn't reflect the university or what the university says. That's him. That's him. Whatever he says is on him. So I think he got the hint that. And honestly, I'm seeing all this posts on this as well. We've got, I guess, Chad Bianco running for governor, and I've seen his posts on Twitter, and he's like a mini Donald Trump. He's so loud and presumptuous. I mean, he was like, I'm leading the whole pack, like a year in advance, like months ago. He's like, look at me, I'm ahead. If it was up to me, he's talking about eliminating certain taxes and all this stuff, and I could tell he doesn't know a damn thing about the California economy. And he's posting all the time. I'm like, dude is a sheriff, and he's posting all the time. So I'm not a fan of that, because as an employee of a company, whenever I took to media, I wasn't, you're not supposed to talk to media. If media contacts me about a certain thing, you're not supposed, because you're not supposed to, you're supposed to route that to our media people. And I saw this post about officers or speaking on political topics, or I don't know what it is, but I tend to think it's the same thing. Like if you're a public servant, like an officer or something like, and you're with taxpayer money, I would be personally worried if an officer pulling me over was spouting things off that was like Somali immigrants are pirates, like what Donald Trump said in his State of the Union, right? And he's sitting there like, yeah, Donald Trump this and that. And if you're representing the people and you're supposed to protect everybody, I would be concerned if you had certain views. I actually wouldn't be concerned if you just kept them yourself. But just like me as an employee of a corporation and having to route that through media people and things like that, and I was really careful with what I posted, and to the point where you don't want to even like certain things and certain, because you don't want to come off as like promoting it. And it was that careful because you're working for the company. You have to follow the company guidelines, right? So I don't go popping off on media, social media, regular media. If somebody asks me and reach out to me to talk to me, I don't do it unless my manager approves of it, and things like that, right? It's like, I feel like that's every organization in America. So I'm all for freedom of speech and speaking your mind and protesting and all that on your own time and on your own channels and things like that. You have to get involved somehow, even if. But I think public servants in particular, and I consider officers, police officers, just Chad Bianco comes to mind because he's so damn loud. And he's always posting. I'm like, does he have a job? Like, he must really not like his job because he's posting all the time. I'm like, how is he like the head sheriff? I don't know what he does. He's like, maybe he's a I don't know what he like, but maybe he's a police chief or something. I don't even know what he does. All I know is he's running for governor, and he says he's gonna win. I don't even know who the other candidates are. This dude's so loud and posting all the time. I know Eric Swalwell. I know the Democratic field is pretty crowded right now for governor. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of like police officers who are supposed to represent the community going out there and posting all the time and talking about their political views and getting all political and that have nothing to do with their jobs and protecting the community. Do a good job first. If they want to run, then I guess they can do that while in their jobs. But if I was a manager of that particular officer, which I guess he has no manager, but he does, the city manager, he works for the city council, he works for the mayor, right? You know, I'd be careful of how I come off to the organization and the city and the people I represent. You have to. And so when I see somebody like in that position who's supposed to be a public servant, and especially in the role of, well, a public servant, but you're really reporting to people. You're still supposed to take direction from the city council, the city itself, the mayor, things of that nature. So you're still under their management. So you're under some manager. You're not just your own thing. I'm really surprised at, because like I said, in the organizations that I worked in, it was very clear that yes, you can express yourself and do all that stuff, but like not while representing the institution. Like Sheriff Chad Bianco's like proudly wearing his badge, like it's on his Twitter, like I'm a cop, like trust me, but here are my political views. That to me is just over the top. There needs to be a little bit more. It can't just be like I pop off and say whatever I want. Look at me in my sheriff uniform. We trust you as an authority figure. We put you in there as an authority figure. And when you say your biases outright, and many people may not agree with you, you begin to, as a citizen, as a person living in that city, what if I have different political views as you and I come out publicly against you? How am I going to be treated if I get pulled over by you or one of your lieutenants or people who work under you? Will I be treated fairly in the same way? That I find to be a conflict, quite honestly. I'm seeing some, I didn't read really close into it, but I'm seeing other posts from police officers like, hey, we should be able to say we have our own views and things like that. I don't know how those views are being expressed, but if they're being expressed like Bianco over here and saying the craziest stuff on Twitter, I don't even know what's going on there. It's bizarre to me. And maybe it's just I haven't seen a police officer or a police chief run like that and just not give a crap about his current position or what the people who are managing him in his current position think. Or maybe they all think like that, but he's in California, so I doubt it. I find that really strange. And I think a huge conflict, in my view. So if you're protecting everybody, you have guns, you have the ability to arrest. I don't want to hear your political biases, especially spouted off on Twitter, because if I'm a citizen if I'm part of that city and I post and say something against you, what are you going to do to me? I'm going to be scared. I'm going to wonder if you're, especially if you have really strong views like Bianco does. So, but there's another front runner Republican. I don't know who he is, to be quite honest, but he hasn't been as loud. I don't even know who he is. I guess he's already got some media. He's some media guy or something. I don't know. I haven't looked into it. It's quite a while away. So chill out. Whoever keeps thinking they're going to win, we're 6 months out or whatever. But anyhow, thought I'd say something on that. Like I said, thought I'd say something a little bit on football. How sad I am that Lou, who won our last national championship, didn't get a chance to see us win again in his lifetime. But I hope Notre Dame, and I know Notre Dame will win one in the near future, I think, in my opinion. Based on how the program ran, based on Marcus Freeman, that dude he is the best coach. Okay, everybody forgot about Marcus Freeman because Kirk Cignetti won with an Indiana team that Freeman smoked. Okay, so just stop it, y'all. Stop it. Really. Freeman's probably the best coach that I've seen in a long time. I think he's gonna really do well for a while for Notre Dame. At least that's what I hope. I hope he doesn't take off, that's for sure. But I think he has elements of being a very legendary coach at Notre Dame, a very winning coach, a championship coach, in my view. So that's my hot take. And thanks for watching. Like I said, if you like it, like, subscribe. I appreciate the views and all that. So thanks, y'all.